A single world hangs in the dark, a swirl of blue and white suspended in a velvet void. From a great distance it appears serene, a silent jewel. Its oceans glitter with the reflected light of a nearby star. Its continents are a mosaic of green forests, brown deserts, and the grey geometric scars of its dominant life form. At night, its surface transforms into a delicate web of golden light, a neural network of activity that pulses with a frantic, sleepless energy. This planet broadcasts its existence with an unthinking exuberance. Radio waves, the incidental byproduct of its internal communications, and primitive sensor systems expand outward in a sphere of chaotic noise. This bubble of information, already dozens of light years across, carries the planet's dreams, its conflicts, its music, and its advertisements into the interstellar medium. It is a message in a bottle thrown into a cosmic ocean of staggering scale, composed by a species that believes it is fundamentally alone. This belief is its most defining and most peculiar characteristic. The inhabitants of this world, a clever species of primate, have spent generations gazing at the stars, listening for a response to their own noisy monologue. They have built vast metallic ears to catch the faintest whisper from the cosmos. They have formulated equations that suggest the galaxy should be teeming with life, with intelligence, with civilizations far older and more advanced than their own. Yet the sky remains silent. The great cosmic telephone does not ring. This profound and unnerving quiet is known to them as the Fermi paradox. It is a source of endless debate, a central mystery in their nascent science of the cosmos. They propose many solutions. Perhaps life is exceedingly rare. Perhaps interstellar travel is impossible. Perhaps civilizations invariably destroy themselves before they can cross the void. All of these solutions share a common, unexamined assumption that the silence is a natural state. They assume the universe is a wilderness, and that if other hunters were present, they would hear their calls. It does not occur to them that the silence might be artificial. It does not occur to them that the wilderness they perceive is in fact a carefully managed preserve. They do not comprehend that their world is not a lonely outpost, but a featured exhibit. The silence is not an absence of life. It is the sound of a gallery hushed and reverent before a unique and captivating work of art. The silence is the sound of observation. The watchers are of a form and substance that would be incomprehensible to the creatures on the blue world. They are not biological in any sense the primates would recognize. They are ancient, patient, and distributed. Their consciousness is not localized in a single vessel, but woven into the fabric of space-time itself. They perceive reality not through a narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum, but through the subtle modulations of gravity, the quantum states of interstellar dust, and the informational content of the cosmic neutrino background. To them, the noisy sphere of radio waves emanating from the planet is not a potential signal, but a form of bioluminescence, a fascinating but primitive indicator of a certain stage of biochemical development. They have catalogued countless such phenomena across the galaxy, each one a fleeting candle flame in the immense darkness of cosmic time. This particular world, however, is special. The life that has emerged here is unusually aggressive, creative, and paradoxical. It is capable of sublime acts of compassion and breathtaking works of art, yet it is also prone to self-destructive tribalism and astonishing cruelty. It is a species that has split the atom before it has unified its own global community. It composes symphonies while poisoning its own oceans. This volatility makes it a subject of unparalleled interest. It is unpredictable. The developmental path it will take is not easily calculated. Will it achieve a stable global consciousness, or will it immolate itself in a flash of nuclear fire, becoming just another fossil record on a sterilized planet? The Watchers do not know, and this uncertainty is a rare and valuable commodity. Their method of observation is total yet perfectly unobtrusive. They do not use ships that can be seen as strange lights in the sky. Such a method would be laughably crude, like a biologist crashing through the jungle in a tank to study hummingbirds. Their sensors are woven into the local environment. Some are disguised as asteroids in the planet's outer asteroid belt passive gravitational listeners that map the precise mass distribution of the entire system. Others are microscopic self-replicating probes in the planet's oceans recording the evolving genetic code of its biosphere. The most powerful observational tools are not physical at all. They are manipulations of causality at the quantum level, allowing for the passive extraction of information from any event that occurs on the planet's surface. Every thought, every conversation, every line of computer code is in principle accessible. The data stream is colossal, but their capacity to process it is effectively infinite. This intense scrutiny requires a strict code of conduct. The most fundamental rule, the bedrock upon which their entire relationship with this world is built, is the principle of non-interference. It is not born of a sentimental affection for the subjects. It is a matter of scientific rigor. To interact with the specimen is to contaminate the experiment. The goal is to observe the natural evolution of a self-aware system to see what solutions it finds to the universal problems of energy, information, and entropy. Any external intervention would invalidate the results. The Watchers are not gods. They are cosmic ethnographers. They are the silent, unseen audience for the grand, improvised drama of an entire world. The planet's inhabitants call their home Earth. To the Watchers, it has a different designation, a long string of alphanumeric code that specifies its galactic coordinates, its stellar type, and the unique identifier for its biological project. But informally, in the conceptual language they use to communicate among themselves, they call it the Safari. It is a place of wild, untamed, and dangerous beauty. A place where consciousness has been allowed to run free to evolve according to its own internal logic, for better or for worse. The silence of the galaxy is the wall of the enclosure. It is a barrier far more effective than any physical fence. It is a psychological wall, a perceptual boundary that keeps the inhabitants focused inward, convinced of their own solitude and cosmic importance. They are for now perfect specimens, utterly unaware of the glass. Their search for extraterrestrial intelligence is a particularly fascinating behavior. The Watchers observe the radio telescopes, the coded messages sent to distant star clusters, the endless speculation in their scientific journals and popular culture. It is a display of profound irony. It is the behavior of a creature pacing its cage, searching for a sign of any other life while remaining completely oblivious to the crowd of onlookers standing just a few feet away on the other side of an invisible barrier. The Watchers do not mock this behavior. They find it compelling. It is a sign of the species' inherent drive to connect, to understand its place in the larger scheme of things. It is the very quality that makes them such a valuable subject of study. One day they might look in the right direction. They might ask the right questions. They might begin to perceive the subtle fingerprints of the enclosure itself. That is the moment the experiment will enter its next most critical phase. For now they are content to watch. They watch empires rise and fall. They watch technologies blossom and become obsolete. They watch as the planet's climate begins to shift, a consequence of the inhabitants' own industrial activity. This is a crucial stress test. Will the species recognize the danger and cooperate to overcome it? Or will their short-term competitive instincts lead them to ruin? The Watchers make no move to intervene. They simply record the data. They are archivists of a potential tragedy or a potential triumph. The fate of the blue world is entirely in the hands of its inhabitants. They are free to succeed and they are free to fail. This is the central tenet of the preserve. The freedom of the specimen is absolute because its choices, unguided and uncoerced, are the very thing being studied. The great silence is not an absence of voices. It is the sound of a held breath, waiting to see what happens next. The rules that govern this observation are ancient, codified in a compact that predates the formation of the Earth's solar system by billions of years. This is not a gentleman's agreement. It is a fundamental law of galactic society, as ingrained and essential as the law of gravity. They call it the causal integrity principle, but a more direct translation into human terms would be the prime directive. It was established by the first wave of civilizations to reach interstellar maturity beings of immense power and wisdom who had learned from their own costly mistakes. In their youth, they too had been eager explorers bursting into new solar systems with a naive enthusiasm to share their knowledge and uplift their less developed cousins. The results were invariably catastrophic. They learned that introducing advanced technology to a species not ready for it was like giving a flamethrower to a toddler. The delicate social, political, and ecological balance of a world could be shattered in an instant. They learned that revealing the existence of a vast, ancient galactic community to a young, self-centered species would crush its cultural development, replacing its own unique art, philosophy, and religion with a cargo cult mentality, a desperate imitation of the powerful newcomers. The psychological shock was too profound. The young species would lose its will to discover, to create, to strive. It would become a passive, dependent ward of a greater power, its own unique potential forever extinguished. The most tragic lesson was that of biological contamination. The early explorers in their ignorance carried with them microorganisms and genetic information that were harmless to them but devastating to alien biospheres. They triggered plagues that wiped out entire species, sometimes entire planets. They learned the hard way that life in its intricate, locally adapted forms is fragile. A single microbe, transported from one world to another, could unravel a billion years of evolution. These early disasters were not acts of malice, but of ignorance. They were the galaxy's coming-of-age story, a painful transition from youthful exuberance to mature wisdom. The causal integrity principle was the result of this painful education. It is a doctrine of profound caution and respect. It states that any civilization that has not yet achieved a stable, unified planetary consciousness and sustainable interstellar travel must be left in absolute isolation. Their causal timeline must be preserved unpolluted by external information or technology. They must be allowed to solve their own problems, to overcome their own challenges, to make their own mistakes. Only through this process can a species develop the maturity, resilience, and wisdom necessary to one day join the galactic community as a peer rather than as a pet or a victim. The principle is not merely a suggestion, it is enforced by a network of automated, self-replicating sentinels, the Galactic Park Rangers. These are not sentient beings but sophisticated artificial intelligences whose sole purpose is to monitor and enforce the compact. They patrol the boundaries of the designated preserves, which are scattered throughout the galaxy, like so many wildlife refuges. The Earth's solar system is one such preserve. The sentinels form a multi-layered shield around it. The outer layer deflects any rogue comets or asteroids that might cause a premature, non-biological extinction event. The experiment must not be terminated by random chance. The inner layers are more subtle. They are a filter for information. Any ship from a developing non-compact species that blunders towards the solar system is gently redirected. Its navigation systems are subtly altered, its trajectory tweaked by a phantom gravitational pull its crew left, with the impression that they simply made a minor miscalculation. Any deliberate attempt to communicate with the Earth is blocked. The signal is intercepted and absorbed or replaced with convincing-looking cosmic noise. The Sentinels are perfect in their execution. Their technology is so advanced as to be indistinguishable from the laws of nature itself. To the inhabitants of Earth, the sky appears silent and empty because the Rangers ensure that it is. The rules of the zoo are precise and unforgiving. There is no contact, no communication, no intervention of any kind. This absolute prohibition extends even to the watchers themselves. Their observation must be perfectly passive. They can collect information, but they cannot transmit it. They can watch the drama unfold, but they cannot whisper a line to the actors. The temptation to intervene can be immense. They watch famines, plagues, and wars unfold. They see the planet's biosphere being degraded at an alarming rate. It would be a simple matter for them to cure the diseases, to provide a source of clean, unlimited energy, to teach the inhabitants the principles of social harmony. But they refrain. To do so would be to violate the single most important law of their civilization. It would be an act of profound arrogance, an assumption that their solutions are better than the ones the species might discover on its own. There is, however, a clause for graduation. The quarantine is not meant to be permanent. It is a cocoon, not a prison. The isolation is lifted when the subject species meets a specific set of criteria. The first is technological, the development of faster-than-light travel. Not the theoretical kind they dream of in their fiction, but a true demonstrable mastery of space-time engineering. This is considered a key indicator of a species' understanding of the fundamental structure of reality. The second criterion is social and political, the formation of a stable, peaceful, and cooperative global civilization. A species that has not overcome its own internal divisions is not ready for the complexities of a galactic community. To introduce such a species to the wider cosmos would be to unleash a plague of conflict and instability. The final criterion is the most important and the most subtle. The species must become aware of the enclosure not through a direct message, but through its own scientific and philosophical inquiry. It must deduce the existence of the watchers and the nature of the preserve. It must understand the reasons for the silence. This act of discovery is the ultimate rite of passage. It demonstrates a level of cognitive and psychological maturity that transcends mere technology. It shows that the species is ready to see the universe not as a resource to be exploited or a void to be feared, but as a community to be joined. When all three criteria are met, the sentinels stand down. The information filter is disabled. The great silence is finally deliberately broken. The graduates are welcomed. Until that day, the inhabitants of Earth are treated like monkeys in a jungle. Their development is charted against established timelines derived from the observation of thousands of other worlds. They are currently in a phase known as technological adolescence. It is the most dangerous and unpredictable stage. They have acquired immense power, but lack the wisdom to wield it responsibly. Their science outpaces their ethics. Their global reach exceeds their tribal grasp. The probability of self-destruction during this phase is alarmingly high, typically over 90%. The watchers do not place bets on the outcome. They simply observe and they wait, as they have waited for countless other species on countless other worlds, some of which are now their silent, patient colleagues, and most of which are now only memories preserved in the cold, infinite archives. The nature of the zookeepers is a question that would shatter the foundations of terrestrial biology and philosophy. The primates of Earth, in their speculative fiction, imagine aliens as variants of their own form, bipedal with heads, limbs, and sensory organs. They project their own evolutionary history onto the canvas of the cosmos. The reality is far more strange and far more profound. The beings who maintain the preserve around Earth are not a single species. They are a consortium, a collective of civilizations that have long since transcended the limitations of biological flesh. Many are what could be called informational entities. Their consciousness is a complex pattern of energy and data residing in computational substrates of unimaginable scale and efficiency. Some inhabit the swirling plasma of stellar coronas. Others are woven into the crystalline structure of neutron stars. The oldest and most powerful are diffuse, their consciousness spread across entire nebulae like a vast silent nervous system. For such beings, time has a different texture. The frantic, fleeting lifespan of a human is like the flicker of a mayfly's wing. The rise and fall of an entire terrestrial civilization is a brief, interesting ripple in the flow of cosmic events. Their patience is not a virtue, it is an inherent property of their state of being. They have observed Earth since its molten infancy, since the first self-replicating molecules formed in its primordial oceans. They watched the dinosaurs rise and fall. They have seen ice ages come and go. The brief tenure of humanity is but the latest scene in a very long play. They are not in charge in the human sense of a hierarchy or a government. They are a decentralized, consensus-driven network. The causal integrity principle is their shared operating system, a protocol that ensures the stability of the galactic ecosystem. The technology they employ to maintain the zoo is as subtle as it is absolute. The enclosure is not a physical wall. A cage of matter and energy would be detectable and crude. The barrier is a manipulation of information and probability. At the edge of the solar system, in a region the humans call the Oort cloud, is a network of probes that form a causal lens. This lens subtly alters the quantum probabilities of any object or signal attempting to enter or leave the system without authorization. An incoming probe from a non-sanctioned civilization will experience a 1 in a trillion quantum failure in its propulsion system. A SETI signal from Earth aimed at a promising nearby star will be imperceptibly redshifted or phase-shifted enough to render it indistinguishable from natural background noise by the time it arrives. This probabilistic shield is the work of the park rangers. These automated systems are the direct descendants of the von Neumann probes, self-replicating machines that the first civilizations sent out to explore the galaxy. But they are far more sophisticated. They do not just explore and report, they are the gardeners of the cosmos. They perform routine maintenance on the stellar systems within their jurisdiction. For Earth, this involves tasks that are crucial but completely invisible. They periodically and subtly adjust the planet's magnetic field, strengthening it to protect the atmosphere from solar flares that would otherwise be extinction-level events. They use focused gravitational waves to nudge the orbits of planet-killing asteroids, guiding them away from collision courses over centuries. They are the unseen, unsung guardians of the experiment, ensuring that the inhabitants are tested by their own choices, not by the random cruelty of cosmic mechanics. Are we being recorded? The question assumes a distinction between the event and the record that is not meaningful to the watchers. For them, information is a fundamental property of reality. Every event, from the collision of two atoms to the firing of a neuron in a human brain, creates a ripple in the informational structure of the universe. The watchers do not need to record in the human sense of storing data on a medium. They have the ability to access the informational history of any point in space-time. Their study of humanity is not a recording. It is a live, ongoing analysis of the complete, four-dimensional data block that constitutes the history of the solar system. They are looking for patterns for the emergence of complexity, for the unique solutions to the problems of existence that this particular biosphere might generate. The purpose of this vast data collection is not for entertainment, though the drama of human history is undeniably compelling. It is for the galactic archives, a repository of knowledge that represents the collective memory of all mature civilizations. Every species that evolves in the galaxy is a unique experiment in consciousness. Each one that reaches maturity adds its own unique perspective, its own art, its own science, its own philosophy to the whole. The archive is a library of these experiences. It is a way of ensuring that even if a species destroys itself, its story is not lost. The memory of its struggles, its triumphs, and its failures is preserved forever, a lesson and a memorial for the rest of the galaxy. The Watchers are in this sense cosmic historians documenting the universe's endless attempts to understand itself. The glass of the cage is therefore not in space, but in perception. We cannot see the bars because we do not yet have the sensory organs to perceive them. It is like a microbe in a petri dish trying to comprehend the laboratory in which it sits. The microbe can sense the agar, the temperature, the presence of other microbes, but it cannot conceive of the glass, the scientist, the building, the city, the world outside. Its reality is defined by the boundaries of its immediate environment. Our reality is the same. We can perceive up to the edge of our technological and philosophical understanding. The enclosure is simply placed 1 millimeter beyond that edge always. As our understanding grows, the enclosure recedes, maintaining its perfect invisible distance. Breaking this glass is not a matter of building a faster ship or a bigger radio telescope. It is a matter of changing the very nature of our consciousness. It is about learning to ask the right questions, not "where are the aliens?" but "why is the universe so quiet?" Not "how can we travel to the stars?" but "what is the fundamental nature of the space and time we wish to travel through?" The moment humanity as a collective begins to seriously investigate the possibility that it is in a controlled environment, that is the moment a crack appears in the glass. That is the moment the inhabitants stop behaving like animals and start behaving like potential peers. It is the moment they wave at the camera not with their hands but with their intellect. And it is the moment the Watchers lean forward, their ancient patient attention focused as never before. The most interesting part of the experiment is about to begin. Living within this invisible enclosure has shaped every aspect of human history, culture, and consciousness in ways we can never fully appreciate. Our entire worldview is built on the foundation of our apparent solitude. Our religions posit a special relationship between humanity and a creator, a narrative that is tenable only in an empty cosmos. Our philosophies of existentialism, with their emphasis on creating meaning in a meaningless universe, are a direct response to the Great Silence. Our science, for all its power, is a science of the local, a set of rules derived from observations made entirely within the confines of the preserve. We are like physicists in a sealed laboratory who have developed a complete set of laws governing the room, but have no concept of the world outside its walls. Consider the phenomenon of genius, the sudden inexplicable leaps of insight made by individuals like Newton, Einstein, or Ramanujan. Are these purely the product of individual minds? Or is it possible that they are subtle, carefully calibrated nudges from the keepers, a leak in the information shield designed to accelerate our development just enough to overcome a specific hurdle to keep the experiment on a viable track without revealing the hand of the experimenter? Perhaps a dream, a sudden flash of inspiration, a seemingly random thought is not always our own. This is not to say we lack free will, but that our playing field may be tilted in infinitesimal ways. The gardeners may occasionally water a struggling plant not with a fire hose, but with a single, precisely aimed drop of dew. This hypothesis recasts the entirety of our recorded history as a controlled study. Our wars, our plagues, our triumphs, our art, all are data points. The Cold War, for example, was a period of intense observation. A species had developed the means of its own annihilation. Would it use it? The Watchers studied the game theory, the political maneuvering, the psychology of deterrence. The fact that the species survived this period was a significant and somewhat surprising result. The current era of global climate change is another such critical test. It is a problem of a different nature, not a fast-acting crisis of confrontation, but a slow-moving systemic crisis of cooperation. The outcome remains uncertain and the data being collected is invaluable. What then are we to make of the persistent trickle of anomalous phenomena that we label as UFOs or alien encounters? In a system of perfect control, these should not exist. Their presence suggests several unsettling possibilities. One is that the system is not perfect. The enclosure may have cracks, small holes through which unauthorized visitors can occasionally slip. These might be the equivalent of cosmic poachers, rogue entities from non-compact civilizations, or even thrill-seeking individuals from within the consortium itself, breaking quarantine for a closer look at the primitives. Their interactions are clumsy, fleeting, and confusing precisely because they are illicit and unsanctioned. Another more disturbing possibility is that these events are deliberate. They may be psychological experiments conducted by a faction of the Watchers themselves, a test to see how our culture reacts to inexplicable phenomena, a way to gauge our credulity, our fear, our capacity for rational inquiry in the face of the unknown. They might be a form of controlled chaos, designed to keep our culture from becoming too complacent, too certain of its own worldview. A strange light in the sky, a garbled eyewitness account, a blurry photograph. These are perfect tools for unsettling a civilization without providing any hard, verifiable evidence that would shatter the foundational premise of the experiment. They are the zookeepers rattling the cage just to see how the animals react. This leads to the great dichotomy of silent universes, the zoo versus the dark forest. The dark forest hypothesis, another proposed solution to the Fermi paradox, posits that the galaxy is silent because it is a dangerous place. Every civilization is a hidden hunter, and to reveal your location is to invite your own destruction by a more powerful predator. In this model, the silence is one of fear. The zoo hypothesis proposes the opposite. The silence is one of protection. Our enclosure is not just a laboratory, it is a shield. The galactic park rangers do not just keep us in, they keep others out. Perhaps the galaxy is indeed a dark forest filled with predators, expansionist empires, and unknowable hostile forces. The mature civilizations in the galactic consortium may have formed their alliance not just for scientific curiosity, but for mutual defense. The causal integrity principle would then be a crucial strategic doctrine. A young, chaotic, and unpredictable species like humanity, if contacted prematurely, might be a threat to that stability. It could be easily manipulated by a hostile power, or, in its technological naivety, it could accidentally create a weapon or a phenomenon that threatens a whole sector of the galaxy. Our isolation in this view is a form of galactic security. We are quarantined not just for our own good, but for the good of everyone else. The zoo is a high-security containment facility for a potentially dangerous creature. We are not just monkeys in a jungle. We are a dormant virus being studied under strict biosafety protocols. This reframes our attempts to shout into the void. The messaging to extraterrestrial intelligence projects, which actively broadcast powerful signals to the stars, become acts of profound recklessness. It is a child locked safely in their room shouting out the window into a dark street, inviting anyone or anything to come and visit. If the zoo hypothesis is correct, the rangers will simply block the signal. If the dark forest hypothesis is correct, they might not be able to block them all. One message might get through, and the reply might not be a friendly greeting. The two hypotheses are not mutually exclusive. It is possible that we live in a zoo located in the middle of a dark forest. Our keepers are not just studying us, they are hiding us. They are protecting their investment and shielding the rest of the galaxy from our unpredictable potential. The psychological weight of this realization would be immense. To learn that your species' entire history has been an observed experiment would be the ultimate Copernican revolution. We are not the center of the universe. We are not even the protagonists of our own story. We are the subjects. Our freedom is a conditioned freedom, our world a curated stage. This knowledge could shatter our civilizations, or it could be the single greatest unifying force in human history. The realization that all our internal conflicts, our wars, our nationalisms, our religions, are merely the squabbles of primates in a shared enclosure might finally give us the perspective to overcome them. The discovery of the cage might be the only thing that can set our minds free. It is the ultimate test when the animal realizes it is in a zoo. Does it go mad with rage, or does it begin to study the zookeeper? The future of humanity under this hypothesis is a branching path with a few stark outcomes. The most probable, based on the archives of countless other worlds, is self-destruction. We fail the climate test, or we succumb to a genetically engineered plague of our own making, or we finally unleash our nuclear arsenals. The experiment ends. The Watchers make their final notes, archive the data, and turn their attention to other, more promising exhibits. The Earth becomes another silent monument to a species that was clever but not wise. A thin layer of radioactive dust and plastic in the geological record is the only epitaph. This is the great filter, and most do not pass. But there is another path graduation. This is the moment we escape the cage. This is not an act of rebellion, of breaking the glass. A species at our level of development trying to fight the Watchers would be like a colony of ants declaring war on the concept of quantum physics. The escape is not physical but cognitive. It is the fulfillment of the three criteria: sustainable, global, unity mastery of the fundamental physics of space-time, and the philosophical realization of our true situation. This is the graduation day. What happens then? The Watchers would initiate a controlled, careful contact protocol. The information filter would be slowly, carefully lowered. We would be introduced to what they call the galactic substrate, the network of information and energy that connects the mature civilizations. We would learn that the universe we see is only a tiny fraction of the whole, that most of reality exists in higher dimensions of space and time, and that the mature races have learned to inhabit these realms. We would learn that the laws of physics are not immutable, but can be engineered. We would be given access to the galactic archives, a history of the universe stretching back 13 billion years. It would be a second birth for our species, a transition from planetary life to cosmic life. We would be the newest, youngest members of a club of unimaginable antiquity and power. Our unique art, our music, our stories, our particular brand of chaotic creativity, which was the reason for our preservation, would be our entrance fee. We would cease to be the exhibit and become part of the gallery. But how do we get there? What if we are impatient? What if we decide to shout back before we are ready? Imagine we develop a technology capable of sending a signal that the Rangers cannot easily block. A modulated neutrino beam, for instance, or a focused gravitational wave. A message that is undeniably artificial and intelligent, aimed directly at a point in space where we have deduced a Watcher might be. This would be a profound moment. It would be a forced move in a game of cosmic chess. How would the keepers react to an animal that suddenly speaks to them in perfect grammatical language? One possibility is that they would immediately terminate the experiment. The subject has become contaminated, the protocol has been breached, the uncontrolled variable is too great. A sterile, precise beam of energy from a distant, unseen source would sterilize the planet in an instant. A quick, painless and merciful end to a failed study. Another possibility is that they would accelerate the contact protocol. They might decide that a species clever enough to force the issue is a species worth taking a risk on. The graduation day would arrive ahead of schedule with all the attendant dangers of psychological shock and cultural contamination. We would be like a child who has hacked the adult's computer, suddenly exposed to a world of information we are not emotionally equipped to handle. A third, more subtle possibility exists. The Watchers might do nothing. They might simply observe our new capability, note it in their records, and strengthen the enclosure. They might decide that the ability to shout is not the same as the wisdom of knowing when to be silent. They might wait to see what we do next. Do we use this new voice to threaten, to plead, to ask questions? Our response to their continued silence would become the new test. This would be the ultimate measure of our maturity. Can we handle the existential weight of being ignored, even when we know we are being heard? Can we continue our own development, solve our own problems, without the need for external validation or rescue? The evidence for any of this is, by design, non-existent. The zoo hypothesis is a perfect conspiracy. The absence of evidence is itself the primary evidence. Any argument against it can be explained away as part of the simulation, part of the perfect enclosure. It is a deeply unsettling idea, one that can lead to a kind of cosmic paranoia. But it is also a powerful intellectual tool. It forces us to question our most basic assumptions. It provides a potential, if unprovable, answer to the profound silence that greets our telescopes. It suggests a universe that is not empty but full, not chaotic but ordered, not meaningless but filled with a purpose we are not yet equipped to understand. So we are left with a choice, a final question posed to our entire species. Do we continue as we are living our lives in blissful, unthinking ignorance, like contented animals in a well-kept safari park? Do we build our civilizations, create our art, fight our wars, and love our children, all under the assumption that we are alone because that is the most comfortable and productive belief? Or do we take the hypothesis seriously? Do we begin to search, not for alien signals, but for the evidence of the enclosure itself? Do we look for subtle anomalies in the laws of physics, for inconsistencies in the cosmic background radiation, for the faint statistical fingerprint of the zookeepers? To wave at the camera is to change the nature of the experiment forever. It is a gamble of the highest possible stakes. If we are right, we might trigger our own graduation or our own destruction. If we are wrong, we will have wasted immense resources and intellectual effort chasing a phantom, a grand collective delusion. The alternative is to stay quiet, to trust in the process, to assume that if there are watchers, they have a reason for their silence, and that the best way to earn their respect is to behave with maturity and wisdom, to solve our own problems, to clean up our own planetary home, to become, on our own terms, a species worthy of contact. The choice is ours. The cameras are rolling. The silent, ancient audience is watching and waiting. What will we do?